What's up, beautiful people, and welcome to the R&D show. We're your hosts. I'm Shad,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the R&D show. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully, you're having a beautiful day today, and we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on, so we're gonna jump right in. Let's start with our boy Ja Morant.
Oh my God. They finally decided to issue a decision on the investigation that they were doing in regards to him having a gun on IG again for the second time within a few months.
And so the first time he flashed his gun at a nightclub in my city, Denver, Colorado, and he came out, he issued an apology, he said all these amazing things, and it's like, okay, he got it, he's gonna do better. And then a few months later, he's in the car with some friends, turning up to some music, flashes the gun again. It's very interesting because we as black men already, we get a rap about everything, a bad rap about anything that we do, right? And a lot of us, we want to be in certain positions in life so that we're able to not only take care of ourselves, but take care of our families. And in God's grace and blessings, some of us do end up in those positions. And Ja Morant is very young. He's in one of those people that have been fortunate to be in a position. He makes millions of dollars a year. He grew up in a very great neighborhood with a good family, went to a good school. So he wasn't a part of a lifestyle that he is trying to represent, right? So it's very interesting how he's so caught up in a lifestyle that he did not come from.
Yeah, that is very interesting. He's almost perpetrating, and he is putting out this negative perception of a life that he didn't really live.
Yeah, there's definitely a narrative that he's creating as if he grew up in the hood and now he is in a position where he doesn't have to struggle no more. He doesn't have to go through these things anymore. But the hood still lives within him, right? The problem is you never grew up in the hood and you never had to go through these situations that made it seem as if you needed to carry a gun and to flash a gun and hang out with certain people. I do know that we do have different types of groups of friends, but I also know that you can't take everybody with you. Depending on where you're going and you're leveling up in life, you can always love them, but if it's going to be where it's going to be a certain energy or you're going to be influenced in a negative way, you have to keep those people where they're at, right?
Right. It's really interesting. It's almost like he's looking for acceptance from a community of people where he did not emanate from. And, he has elevated himself to the NBA where he's in a whole another league from a socioeconomic status, but yet he's trying to impress people who are in gangs, who are come from a different environment he came from.
Absolutely. And the problem is you have a younger generation of boys that are looking up to a Ja Morant and wants to be in his shoes. And so they're also very easily impressionable. Like they see this and they think that that's normal and that's okay behavior. What I did, so they had posted, the 25 game suspension. Of course, it's all over social media, also on the Shade Room, which is a big gossip blog. And so I left a comment underneath there. And I just basically said, I'm like, not enough has been done. I said he needs a tougher consequence because what I've learned is that this generation of boys need tougher consequences so they can actually learn from their mistakes. The first time, okay, we got it. The second time, and it's just kind of like, what is going to take for you to just see that this is very serious? And of course, just for me leaving that comment, you got people saying, here we go. It's just your people that want to see your downfall. It's always your people. And I'm like, in what way is enforcing tougher consequences to get a point across to help somebody be better and do better, wanting them to not succeed? I want this man to succeed. He's young, and I feel like he has a great future, but I also feel like he's not getting it. And because he's not getting it, something has to be reinforced so that he can understand the seriousness of what he's doing and how he's jeopardizing not only his brand, but his livelihood. And you are also sending the wrong message to younger black boys that look up to you. So at the end of the day, tougher consequences is needed. It doesn't mean that he needs to go to jail and this needs to happen and that needs to happen and all kill him and all the rest of, like, I think people go above and beyond when you express like, okay, I'm here for Ja Morant, ride for him, and I think that he's amazing. But at the end of the day, he keeps making these decisions. It's no longer a mistake when you keep doing it, it's a decision. So his decision is to continue to do certain things because he's not learning from it. Therefore, he needs to have a different consequence.
Yeah, he needs a wake-up call. The 8-game suspension previously obviously wasn't enough. He slept through that wake-up call. So now he needs a larger wake-up call. And hopefully this 25-game suspension will be that. Because now that he's going to be suspended for 25 games, that means he won't be eligible for the All-Star game and some other postseason awards. So it's a little bit stiffer consequences. And plus, I believe you lose like $10 to $12 million. So that's money he's just throwing away because of a stupid decision.
Yeah, it's a decision. It's no longer a mistake. You know what you're doing, and you don't have to be actively riding around with the gun. If you fear for your safety, get you some security. Get you some people that can do all that for you.
But get
you
this,
don't have to do that.
You don't have to be showing it on Instagram.
Not
you
at
can
all.
have a gun,
Yeah.
have a gun in your car, but there's no need to flash, especially when you know you're a role model for so many young people.
Valid
And so
point.
there's no point of like flashing on IG. Keep it to yourself.
And listen, I have a son. I have a young man that I'm raising that I want to make good choices. And so when he does things that he continues to make these bad decisions and these bad choices, I do believe that tougher consequences need to be had because clearly you need a lesson learned. And for me telling you what can happen, it's not enough. And you having a little bit of a lesson, it's not enough. So if tougher consequences is going to get through your head to give you that wake-up call, I'm all here for it. But again, I'm not saying, destroy him. He needs to not be successful, take away, like, that's going above and beyond. I just feel like sometimes people just want something to argue about, and they want you to just attach yourself to this narrative so that now you can go back and forth. Now you're opening up a bad energy line of communication because you have chosen to be like, okay, so what they did, and I'm not that guy. You're not gonna get me on social media to start going back and forth because you misinterpreted or you just really woke up and want to be mean and nasty and want somebody to argue with and pick a fight. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. It's better for our son to have consequences in our house rather than out in the world. Because once you get out in the world, the fines are gonna be stiffer. You got prison. Maybe the consequence of a bad decision could be you can end up dead.
Absolutely.
You can end up fighting someone and you can end up dead. So like it's better to have those tougher consequences in the household.
Absolutely. And again, it does not mean taking away someone's livelihood, stripping them from the career that they worked so hard for. That's not what I mean by having a tougher consequence. Sitting him out for a whole season, period. Then he'll be like, I don't want to see a gun again.
Yeah.
I don't want to see none of it. I know that this next season I'm going harder. I'm also going to show up a different way. At the end of the day, I have a lot to prove to myself, not to y'all, but to myself, because I've worked hard to be in this position. You know what I mean? So that's a tougher consequence. That's not rooting for no one's downfall. So let's stop doing that. That's not what that means.
And we don't want to enable his behavior.
At all.
And like we already said, he already had that 8-game suspension, and he said that he was going to change his ways. He was going to go to therapy and things of that nature, and that didn't work. And so now he needs something stiffer, and he got something stiffer. So hopefully he learns from this situation.
Yeah, Ja Morant, because we're rooting for you.
They're rooting for you.
We are rooting for you, and there's a lot of young black boys that look up to you. So make better decisions moving forward at the end of the day.
Yeah, you could turn this all around into a positive story. You could say, look what I was doing. I was young, dumb, and stupid. Like, you guys don't need to do this. And if you turn this around, now you can become the face of the NBA and continue to get more endorsements. So this could be a positive story. So.
And remember, we all watching you. We are all rooting and watching you. All right, moving on. Let's move on to Sukihana and YK Osiris. Oh, so this situation has been going on for a few days. There are a lot of opinions on social media about YK Osiris's actions and black women and how they're not respected and appreciated and all the rest of these things. There's a back and forth of who's wrong, who's right. They're both wrong. So many different opinions. And so when I started to analyze it for myself, I do know that YK Osiris is young and he has a personality on him as well. He has a big personality that like he likes to have fun, right? Sukihana, from what I get from her, from I won't even just say her music, I'm gonna say from seeing her interviews, she's very vulgar, right? And overly sexual. Um she carries herself a certain way to where so growing up I would always hear my grandma always say that a young lady, the way she dresses and the way she acts is the way that she wants to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you kind of just think like, well, what does that mean? And a lot of the older people will be like, well, if you dress like a hoe, they'll treat you like a hoe. And it's like, what does dressing like a hoe mean? And so they'll have all these examples of what that looks like. And so then imagine you see a girl that walks into a club and she is half naked, like completely half naked, not the regular half naked, but like she has the pasties just on the nipples, but you see all the titty. She's just kind of like, she's confident, she's comfortable in what she has on. But then you have a guy who sees this, or guys who see this, and so they're like, she's looking for attention, a certain type of attention, and I'm gonna give it to her. Because the way that you show up sometimes is a representation of the attention that you're gonna get from somebody else. Unfortunately, sometimes that's how it works. And so with Sukihana, in this situation, again, she presents herself a certain way. And because she presents herself a certain way, I think a lot of guys feel like they can handle her a certain way, talk to her a certain way, do certain things, and she'll be just fine because she talks about this stuff. She's raw, and it's like, well, she's a sexual person. I can be sexual back with her. So from what I got from what YK Osiris did was he thought that she was inviting this behavior, right? Now, yes, permission is very important. Consent, important, period. But sometimes there can be an underlying thing where you feel like the behavior is invited, like from the conversations we're having, the playfulness that we're giving, the energy. And so he went in and tried to kiss her. Everybody's in an uproar.
Yeah, okay. I looked at the video. First of all, I didn't know who these people were until you said, look them up. We're going to have this conversation. But when I looked at this video, maybe her language and her music invited it, but she clearly said no. And he came back a second time around and tried it again. So even if he thought he had an invitation, her reaction was a disinvitation. Move back. I'm not feeling this. This is awkward. This is uncomfortable. He should have respected that. And that's where I have an issue. Even if you thought she was inviting, her body language said no. And you kept, I think maybe it was his ego. It's like, I'm going to try to go for this. She didn't give me this kiss. Let me go again. I think at that point, maybe it was his ego that got in the way.
Yeah. And so I agree that a no is a no. And sometimes we give a no with our body language. I'm good with no with just my facial expressions. I don't even have to say anything. Like, a no is a no. And giving him a little bit of grace by simply saying maybe he thought he could be playful with her like that because of her reputation from what she puts out. This might not even be her personal life. It could just be a full persona. Mm-hmm. And so you're thinking because this is the persona side of her, everything is going to be fine. Like, this is who she is, I'll be fine. He clearly crossed the line. Let's just say the disrespect happened. He crossed the line, but at the same time, giving him some grace does not take away from he crossed the line. He did cross the line. He disrespected her. Regardless of what comes out her mouth, I still feel like whether it's sexual or, whatever the case may be, there has to be a consent, period. We can be talking about sex for 40 days and 40 nights. That don't mean that I want to have sex with you. It just means we're just having the conversation. That doesn't mean take it literal, so that now you get naked the next time I look up and you got all your clothes off. We have to know when to draw the line. And I think that YK Osiris was in a position where he felt like, well, I'm going to just keep playing to the fullest to see how far I can go. And he went too far, and he didn't realize that what he was doing was very disrespectful. And he crossed the boundary.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that he issued what seemed to be a genuine apology to her. So I believe in second chances. Hopefully he understands like the ramifications of what he did to her. Apparently she got off social media. She's very hurt. She's been torn up about it. So hopefully he understands the impact that it had on her and other black women who feel they can't protect themselves or who have been violated. And I think for this to happen in front of people was a very bold statement. So I do think he deserves some backlash so we can reiterate to our young black women, to our young black boys, this behavior is not okay.
Yes,
it's not okay.
It's not okay. And also, I also think that it's a wake-up call for her as well and other women too. Not saying that your persona has to go away, but I think that there's a way to also have a boundary with that persona as well, right? There's a way to make sure that you're respecting yourself as well within that persona, because sometimes people feel like you're disrespecting yourself, and because you're disrespecting yourself, how you gonna say that I'm disrespecting you when you do it all the time? You know, you do it on a daily basis. And that's a valid point, but it still doesn't take away from being disrespectful to that person and crossing their boundaries. But I do think that women, black women in general, also have to kind of shift that narrative of how they show up as well, because we want to be able to respect you fully just based off of, okay, we ain't even got to talk to you, know that you like, we always want to respect you regardless. But I think people become a little bit confused by the way that sometimes you present yourself when you show up. Like if you're showing up a certain type of way, then they think that they have access to you in a certain type of way, or they can handle you a certain type of way. But when you're showing up in a way where it's like, yes, this is in my music, but this isn't who I am, then we know the difference. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes we correlate one's lifestyle with what they're talking about in this music, and nobody is having these interviews and saying, this ain't who I am, like this is my alter ego, you know, it sells, whatever the case may be, but at home, I'm just a mom, I love to cook, I like to be with my kids, I'm married, I'm this, I'm that. But that's not selling. What's selling is me busting wide open, you know, talking about I do this and I do that and I deep throat this and I do that. And I get in these interviews and I talk wild, crazy and nasty and all the rest of this. And so some men are gonna take that as if like you love to be treated this way and this is how I can handle you. So let's start, you know, taking accountability just for how we show up in general in spaces.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that opinion. It's not black and white. It's not she was wrong, he was wrong. It's kind of in between both of it. You know, she has some growing and learning to do. Hopefully, she's going through a self-evaluation phase and really just thinking about, is this the type of music I want to put out? You know, even though I may not behave this way, there are other young black women that may behave this way or may, you know, reiterate my lyrics, and they're opening themselves up to maybe some type of negative behavior. So hopefully she'll think about her actions and he'll think about his actions, and everyone will grow. That's what we're here for, to grow.
Yeah, and I think that this needed to happen for all of us to be able to evaluate the way that we interact with each other, the way that we treat each other, and just how we show up in spaces in general, and what the representation of us should look like and what we really want it to be, so that we get the respect that we deserve and we're able to respect other people the same way. We want the best for Sukihana and YK Osiris, and just really hope that both apologies were his apology was genuine, her accepting it was genuine, and we can move on from this and take it as a learning lesson.
Yep, I agree.
Take it as a learning lesson. So this is just part 1 of this video. Make sure y'all come back for part 2 of the video, and we're gonna continue the conversation.
Yes, sir.